In this week, week 4, we are going to essentially expand our knowledge of the hypothesis test. And before I go into what our concept map is and what we're going to cover, I want to sort of explain the three major things we're going to do. And first of it is we're going to learn how to execute a test of the mean on the population when the variance is unknown. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to execute a test to compare the means of two populations to see if they are the same or different using a paired t-test. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to execute a test to see or in order to compare the means of 3 or more populations and see if they are different, and we'll do that using ANOVA. So let's go into a little bit more detail here. This concept map shows several concepts associated with hypothesis testing. Last week we did a test of the mean when the variance was known. This week we're actually going to do a test of the mean when the variance is unknown. And to do a test of the mean of two populations when the variance is unknown, we'll do this by estimating variance. So we will estimate the variance based off of the data that we have from our sample, and ultimately formulating a test statistic, which we call T0. This T0 is very similar to Z0, which we used when we knew what the variance was. Different than Z0, T0 uses the student's t distribution, which is similar to the normal distribution when we use a Z0 test statistic. Computing probabilities is a little more involved because it sort of requires us to use this idea of degrees of freedom, which we will talk about when we get there. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to extend our hypothesis test to the paired t-test. And essentially, it allows us to compare two populations using this paired t-test method. And what it does is it compares corresponding individuals in two populations to see if there is a difference. Also, it tests on means that do not compare corresponding individuals, but we will not actually ever cover that. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to do ANOVA, or analysis of variance. And essentially this is the same thing as this, except it allows us to make comparisons using 3 or more populations. And the reason why, let's say, we don't want to do multiple comparisons of, let's say, 3 different populations using a paired t-test. So let's say we would first compare these two, then we would compare these two, and then maybe we would compare these two, and then maybe we would compare these two or these two. Every time we do these like small little one-on-one individuals, our individual comparisons using the paired t-test, it actually increases our chance of a type 1 error. So that's why ANOVA was developed, and that's why we're going to learn about it. Calculating this test statistic is much more involved than the others because it requires the computation of an F statistic, and because Minitab sort of goes in behind the scenes, it does it for us. That's actually what I'm going to recommend we stick with as we move throughout the course. So I hope you have a better idea of what we're going to cover for week 4. Thanks.